Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Construction Complete, a show all about Super Mario Maker 2. My name is Killjoy, and today we're carrying on looking at the Super Mario Bros. 3 remix that I've been working on. For those who don't know, it's just me looking at the old levels from the original Super Mario Bros. 3 and trying to make levels inspired by that, remix levels, that kind of thing. Some are much similar to the original than others because of mechanics and other things, but I'm trying to kind of give that nostalgia flavour while also adding new elements to the levels. And we're going to be carrying on today looking at the second world now. We're on 2-1, and before we start I've got to talk about this incredible desert music. Now I know that I talk about the music in these games a lot, but oh, this builder music is just mwah, it's fantastic. But yeah, as always, I will play through the level, and then I'll talk about what I did in the level and then critique it and then play it again at the end, which I forgot to do last video. But without further ado, let's have a look at 2-1.
Here we go!
It should be fairly recognisable for some people that play this. Some big... Oh wow, that was terrible. Should be some similarities, should figure out what the level's based on, but there are differences here, and some quite big differences too. Oh. I'm really bad with these jumping Goombas. I should start to look a little bit different. Well, firstly you've got jumping Goombas, so that's a thing. But we've also got chain chomps, which are lovely. Look a little bit familiar. Very, very similar looking secret going on here. It is a bit different actually, but There's little dudes. This is a weird thing. Looks like a dude sat down, cross-legged. Similar ending as well. This is quite a short level. Oops. No. But there's definitely a lot of bits that are ripped from the original, but I wanted to change up enough. Boop. And then you have it. It's a shortish level. If you know where the secrets are, they kind of help. But let's go over it. Let's talk about it and kind of why I kind of kept this level more similar to the original than some of the other ones I've done. It was quite an easy level to do, really, because it uses, in this theme, you get the ground pipe colour thing, which you can use, which is nice and easy. So it meant that I could actually have it visually look a little bit, or pretty much the same. But to start off with, we have this area with this jumping Goomba. This is another one of my things where I'm like, hey, I want the player to see what they're dealing with as soon as they start. Now, I can't do... From the original game, you have blocks with Goombas in it that would jump. Can't do those. There are fire snakes in the original. Can't do those. So, I had to replace things, change things up. So what I'm doing here is using the Power Goombas to act as the Goombas that would be in those blocks, essentially. The layout's fairly similar. We've got... This bit's a bit different. There's like this weird... This actual layout is completely different to the original, but I just put a Goomba trapped in some blocks, nothing too special, and then just a few extra of the Goombas hopping around. Similar layout here with the Koopa Trooper and a mushroom block. I do believe there is a Starman here originally, or there is a Starman in one of these blocks, I can't remember exactly, which I took out because Starman in this makes you run so much faster that it kind of defeats the point of it. And then a few extra blocks, a couple extra enemies, and then so on, and we'll get to that. Now you're going to see there's definitely a massive change in the amount of enemies just at the start of this world. I wouldn't normally put this many enemies in, especially in the first levels, but because they're sort of trapped in these blocks, it's not too bad. And you then get this Koopa Trooper that you can use to mercifully destroy most of the enemies. and there are coin blocks in here. Why I put them here, I don't really know. It's kind of a bit tough. Probably made them a little bit easier, but there you have it. You know, it's a fairly nice flat section of the level where you're just dealing with Power Goombas and a Koopa Trooper. If you don't use the Koopa Trooper,
here we go.
It is a little bit harder because you can just avoid these dudes, jump on the blocks, get over them. This guy, most of the time they're really bad at jumping over blocks because of the way they jump, so you never really do it. But you can avoid most of it quite easily, give them plenty of height to get on there. There's another one come falling down. So there's a lot of them. So already this level is like, oh, keeping you on your toes. There are a lot of enemies to deal with and be aware of. And I quite like the jumping Goombas because they will follow you back and forth. They're not overly fast. You take a couple of hits, and as you saw straight away, I got killed by one. But pretty much similar sort of going part of the level, slight different variation of blocks, different enemy types. And then we come to the first of like these, I don't know what you would call it, like pipe things. I don't know what it is, like metal girders. And this is where obviously I don't have fire snakes, so I can't really do anything with it. And there were Goombas in the original on top of these, but I've changed them to the powered Goomba type, so they're a bit more, a bit difficult to deal with, rather than just average Goombas. But yeah, chain jumps, like I've said in the past, or if I haven't, if this is the first time I've used chain jumps don't behave the same way in this than they do the original game.
Here we go.
Chain jumps in the original game will generally jump in the direction you are. You'll see with these ones they go back and forth and then they pick a direction and lunge in, and they can go quite far. But they will generally just go in a direction. This one seems to constantly be over here, but it doesn't really matter which side I'm on, they will change up. See, so like, yeah, they're a bit random, but they're not the same, they're not as aggressive as they were in the original game. So in here it's, oops, I have to try and make it so that, I had to replace the chain jumps a few times, done it again. I had to replace the chain jumps a few times because you're trying to get them in a place where they're not going to get you straight away, but it gives you enough room here in the middle. Like I think I can stand here and I'm safe. I think. Because we're going to find out right now. Yeah, they can't quite reach me there, so there's a safe zone. But they are a hard enemy to deal with, chain jumps, so you do have to think about when using them. Obviously I can't currently get out of here because I don't have a mushroom. But yeah, I made it so that you either have to find the P-switch to change them into coins, or you can only get in there with a mushroom. But yeah, so start the level, show off the enemy type. Now I'm doing a little bit less teaching of some of these mechanics because it's now the second world, so it needs to be a little bit more difficult. But generally speaking, I'm trying to give the player enough time to see. Like, you already can see, even if you run, there's no way of jumping without seeing that wing or that Goomba. So you know that Goomba's there. The hardest part is when the Koopa Trooper comes on. There's no, you've got time, but I'm not like giving you loads of time. It's just, hey, there's a Koopa Trooper here. And same with these guys. It's like, there's nothing there that I believe to be too egregious. Too unfair is the word I'm looking for. And you see that it's fairly similar design. Again, the block placement's a bit different. There is obviously the secret up there, which you can then get into to get into the other set of pipes, which I like. I like keeping that the same. Again, didn't have a fire snake, so I made it a bit simpler. Just put a load of coins in there in a weird formation that looks like a guy sat cross-legged. And then I did put this here in case people wanted to go back and backtrack. I don't think you can in the original unless you smash a block from underneath, which you can't do on mine. As you see, it's just more like a little square thing there. But again, not a very complex level, to be honest. There's this final part here. Now, I could have put piranhas in here because, again, this part here is, again, a Goomba would be in one of those blocks jumping about. But I can't do that. So I thought, rather than have two piranhas and two Goombas, power Goombas, that's a bit much. In fact, we can have a look at just how much that would be.
Here we
We're
go.
running along. Dealing with these. Oh, piranha plant. Oh, another piranha plant. Like, yeah, they're not coming up that quick, but it's a bit much. So I prefer to just keep it with a couple of paratroopers. And again, there's only 3 types of enemies in here. And that's something I think that's worth keeping in mind, is how many enemy types do you want in one level. Because if you built a level around Koopa Troopers and then right at the end you've got a chain chomp or something, it's like, well, that's not necessarily the best game design to just shove in a random thing. It's like, hey, I've got this level, I'm going to put Boom Boom here. Alright, I've got no indication of playing these levels that at any point Boom Boom is randomly going to be in this level. Oh look, Boom Boom! Like, what? Like, it doesn't really make sense. Now I'm talking more from the sense of a standard kind of level. It's not to say you couldn't do something like that, but there's no way that Nintendo are going to be like, hey, we're going to put Boom Boom in the middle of the level, Bowser or something like that. If you really wanted to remix it up, yeah, you could put like a Thwomp in, maybe.
Here we go.
I don't know what he's going to hit. Wow, that gave a cool effect. But you can see what I mean, like, it's... The thing with putting something like that that's random in, you need to give somebody a chance to understand, like, oh, that mechanic is going to be in the level. Later on in the very end of the worlds, it's less of a problem because at that point you're allowing the player to put all these skills together that they've learnt in a very difficult level. But you see here that there are no piranhas beforehand. Why would I could have put them in those pipes, but it seems a bit unnecessary. You know, having the Power Goombas and the Koopa Troopers, and then you see these Chain Chomps. The first time you see them in this particular amount of levels I put together, like, this is okay, because again, like, you've got time with these Chain Chomps.
Here we go.
I can't get to that Chain Chomp, like, easily. Wow. That was
Here
weird.
we go.
Huh. Did I just get hitbox issues? But you can see, like, even if I go on screen, like, I've got plenty of time there. I can't just run into this Chain Chomp unless that happens. Like, I can't just run into this Chain Chomp. Like, he's there, he's behind a wall. Got so much time to see here. They're actually like the bane of my life, those Koopa Troop Power Goombas. But there's always time to see stuff coming. And again, with the end, there's no point putting Piranha Plants in there when you're dealing with 2 Power Goombas and then you've got Piranha Plant. It's just a bit much in a confined space. Like I said, later on in a level, in the game, you could easily do it if you do it fairly, because you're then testing the other player's skills. But you see that, again, it's quite a simple level. It does take most of the same elements from the original, but you've then got the twist of there's more Goombas. You've got the Chain Chomps instead of the fire snakes. And that's the biggest changes. Some of the block layout's different. This is different. It's a smaller section. And I kind of like that. I kind of like the fact that this level is very heavily inspired by that level, but very different in its own right. If I was going to change something, I'd maybe take out some of the enemies, I think. This is fine. Showing the enemy off. These are fine, I think. Maybe knock the Koopa Trooper back to about here, a couple spaces back, a little bit more time maybe. Maybe get rid of one of these Power Goombas as well. You don't necessarily need 2. Maybe knock this guy back a little bit in the level as well, so he's not, when you're trying to bounce up, he's not getting in the way. But at least you've got time to see him. The Chain Chomps I moved around a lot. There was 1 in there, then there was 2, then it was back to 1, and then I was like, well, I kind of wanted to cover the exits, if you like, to make it a little bit more difficult. And then at the end here, I think I kind of like this bit. I wouldn't change this much. So yeah, it is kind of following that template of the original level. There isn't a huge amount of changes to it, except for the enemies and some of the block placement. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's a nice way of introducing a bit more difficulty by having that many more enemies. I mean, you can just avoid everything in this level quite easily. Whoops, he says, almost dying. There's just so much stuff to jump on. These guys, you kind of don't have a chance, but like up here, and you know, that's the entire level gone. You can do it in seconds. But You know, you can avoid a lot of it, but you know, you're gonna miss a lot of the secrets and the goodies and things in the level. But yeah, I think now that we're into World 2, I have to start, like, now I'm making these levels, I have to really think about, this has to be more challenging. How can I make it more challenging without shoving loads of enemies? And I know that there are quite a few in this level, but I try to separate it. You see, like, this guy's separated, they're all separated, there's more of them. These guys are together, but again, they seem really bad at jumping over blocks. But, you know, keeping the chain chomps in a very confined area. It's like, hey, you want to go in there and get that block and those coins, you got to be aware that there's chain chomps in there. And obviously going along the top and stuff. So there is more to think about, more to deal with, but it's also not to a point where it's too crazy. You're not like, oh my god, I'm just completely around. It's not like I've done something like this. You know, this is too much. That's a lot of enemies to deal with, like bouncing around and whatnot. Like, yeah, it kind of looks cool, but like, he actually got over the blocks. Wow, that's the first time I've seen that. But you can see just how insane that is. That's the beginning version, but that's just too much. You don't need that kind of. You don't need that amount of enemy placement in here. You just need it to be, hey.
Here we go.
Alright, one enemy. Cool, that's fine. Oh, another enemy. Like, you're constantly putting a challenge there because you have to be aware that those enemies are there, but not to the point where you're really focused and laser focused on not getting hit. Oh! It's something that I really do think about a lot of the time is enemy placement, because each block, each enemy, like, everything is kind of an obstacle. That's kind of how to look at it, and you think, right, okay, how does this obstacle affect the level? How does it affect what the player's doing? Do I want the player to jump? Do I want them to duck? You know, what am I doing to construct a level that is enjoyable for that player? Shoving tons of enemies in. Doing things like this.
Here we go.
Doing things like this is something I basically steer away from, because I'm like, well, you know, obviously that in case you can't get past them, but the idea of having like mountains and mountains of enemies, or, you know, the enemies are just like no setup for, or just out of nowhere, or really, really difficult to deal with. To me, it doesn't seem like fun. I get that people like difficult levels, but I want to be able to build a level that feels coherent. It feels like this level is put together in a way where it's like, oh, that was thought about. And yes, there are always going to be things I can change to tweak it to be a bit easier or a bit more difficult, but I really like the way that this level goes, hey, there are more enemies in this level, but you don't have to tackle them all at once. There's like, you can take your time. Like, if I was a new player doing this, I might as well play through it again. If I'm just playing through this and walking, this is how I test all my levels. I'm like, okay, I'll wait for that guy, I'll jump over him. Oh, Koopa Trooper, alright, cool. Oh! So maybe I would wait here. Don't want to have to like deal with him. Jump over this guy. You can see that even while there is plenty of enemies to look at and see, none of them are being like forced in your face to the point where they're really hard to deal with. Like, I can just jump over these guys. So there is more challenge there. You have to think about it more than the first world, probably. But again, it's not too crazy. So there you have it. That is 2-1. That's probably going to do it for me today. I hope you've enjoyed watching this, as always. And if you like this video, hit like, subscribe if you want to see more content, plus others content from this channel. And obviously comment down below with your own levels, your thoughts on it if you play it. The course code will be at the beginning and the end, as it normally is. And just, you know, I hope you are enjoying this series. I'm very much enjoying making it. I like talking about this game. Level design is really interesting to me. So, but thank you very much for watching, as always, and I'll see you next video.